Welcome to Talkin Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And there's never a dull moment in Giants land. It's always something. We were getting ready to just record an award show. Okay, cool. We get to do our awards. It's fun, which we are going to do on this show, unless news breaks halfway through like last podcast. But, Justin, we've got more information on the Brian Daboll, Wink Martindale part of this, right? And people immediately go to that. But to me, this article written by Pat Leonard of the New York Daily News, to me, talks much more and is more damning about the Brian Daboll-Mike Kafka relationship, which is not set in stone that Kafka's back quite yet. Justin, how are you?
Good, man. What do we got to do to just get stability, right? You laughed about it before we recorded. We're hanging out with Patreon, and what do we got to do to just get normalcy around here? And that's how I feel. And the frustrating thing about this, Bobby, we'll come on here and that it's our jobs to kind of be like as doing a Giants podcast, but this is how I feel, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what's going on. And then 2 days later, when another article comes out, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on, and blah 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 blah, and like so many different things change. It's a little frustrating not fully knowing what's going on, and kind of is Paul Schwartz telling the truth? Is Pat Leonard telling the truth? What's the truth? I guarantee you everything is it's somewhere in the middle.
Well, I actually think there's really, to me, nothing from the Schwartz and Pat Leonard articles that contradict facts, because I'm only looking at the reported this happened stuff. Like, obviously Schwartz is with a positive slant and Pat Leonard is with a negative slant towards the Giants. But to me, I'm only looking at the facts, and I feel like, because Wink Martindale's fired, people go to like the Wink Martindale stuff in this. The only thing I learned new about the Wink Martindale stuff is the details of the MFing that Daboll was doing, which we talked about that Daboll has to fix. And you mentioned Patreon. Mike Geyer's a new Patreon. Not Wimmer, Mike Geyer. Just Chris. No last name, just Chris. We got a lot of those. Rob Vartanian. He's it's two B's too, from funky names. Bano Seri or Banyo Seri. Banyo means bathroom in Spanish. John Dees. Dees what? Big Parps. I like Big Parps and Big Tarps. And then Ruben Martinez. Blake Martinez's brother. And PJ Bryceland. He's not from CJ Stroudland. He's from Bryceland. Justin, who are these people? Quick.
You know the deal. Patreon.com/Talkin Giants. Hang out while we watch the show, while we record the shows. There's some other perks too. Shirts, stickers, Patreon.com/Talkin Giants.
Yeah, so let's go through the Wink stuff, because Wink is gone. And so here's the things that were said about, the Brian Daboll Wink Martindale relationship and what happened in this. So basically, Brian Daboll at the end of that Commanders game, before Isaiah Simmons, I think, had the pick six at the end of the game or whatever, and the second Commanders game, got on the headset and said, "You're going to lose this game just like you lost us the Jets game," right? That's a bullshit thing from Brian Daboll to say. And the also thing it said is like, hey, like, it was interfering with play calling for Wink doing to it, like trying to get a play in, and Daboll's in his ear MFing him. So we talked about this, Justin. That has to slow down, right? You doesn't need to be, a saint. Doesn't need to be perfect, Tony Dungy style on the mic. But there has to be some changes from Brian Daboll in the way he handles his coaching staff, because you can say, "Oh, deal with it," but at the end of the day, you lost what I think most people think is a good defensive coach for these reasons.
Yes. And that's what this is like, it's not what I was waiting for, but like, I don't think Wink Martindale got sour, and I don't think he got to this point where he actually wanted to leave the Giants, whether you think that's right or wrong. He didn't get to that point for no reason. And it was not like that with the Ravens. And that's something that is really being misrepresented, not misreported, but it's being misrepresented by Giants fans. Giants fans acting like, "Oh, well, he had a similar exit with the Ravens." No, he did not. That was actually amicable, where this is not amicable. These two people do not like each other.
Right. And then the other things that were brought up were the Xavier McKinney situation, which we knew about. And then the other one was the training camp narrative that came out of the 2022 training camp, where the Ty Dunn article comes out that, they were tipping the plays to the defense to help Jones go through it. And Daboll put a limit on Wink Martindale's blitzing. Now, here's something. I actually agree with Brian Daboll on that. Now, the whole tipping thing, I don't know what's real with that. We never really took that too serious in the moment. But we said mid-2022 training camp, Justin, Wink, this isn't a dick measuring contest. You got to scale it. You got to let the offense install its stuff. Like, they were playing every play like it was 3rd and 15. And it's like, okay, yeah, if this Giants offense was just trying to beat you, they'd throw a screen. They would do this little quick game. But they're trying to install some of their offense. And Wink Martindale made it really tough. So I actually agree with Brian Daboll on that. The Xavier McKinney situation was brought up. I agree with Brian Daboll on that. So the Wink Martindale part of it, that's it, is the details of the MFing, which, again, we've talked about, in every episode since all this went down, that Daboll has to slow down on. And you also have to know who you're dealing with. You can treat different coaches differently. We've said that in every podcast. I still feel basically the exact same way about Wink Martindale. But now we have some concrete details on not just, he's yelling at guys, but how it's yelling. And it's bullshit from Brian Daboll.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a shame, man, because for a coaching staff, a regime, Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll, and then everybody underneath them, that talks about self-evaluation and, we're going to reflect on what we can do better. We're going to reflect on what we did wrong. We're going to reflect on what we can do right, how we can replicate that stuff that went right, and how we can rectify the stuff that went wrong. That, they talked about. They talk about that all the time. They still talk about it. And the fact that, you had one player say, according to Pat Leonard, last season it was like we were riding a wave, and now we're off the wave. Not being able to reflect on all the shit that went wrong in 2022, granted with a lot of winning, and it seems like, hey, there was a lot of stuff that went right despite some toxic relationships in the building, but when you're winning, everything is all right, right? Frustrating that they weren't able to rectify that stuff, see what went wrong last year, and then rectify it and repair those relationships this year. Because it seems like there was no effort to really do so by either Brian Daboll or Wink Martindale, even though they had an offseason to try and repair and fix what went wrong in 2022.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I still am more bothered by Wink than Daboll in this relationship. We'll get to Kafka, where I'm way more on my Kafka side than Daboll's.
Yeah.
I do think, like, Wink Martindale did this whole 8-week getting at, like, Daboll at least tried to go into their meeting rooms and address it.
Yeah.
And Wink
if
Martindale,
that is true.
Which I do believe is true. But Wink Martindale had decided, from what we can even use it like that, he was gone. And there was really nothing that was going to be gone. And I'm going to be in my defensive run. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not listening to you anymore. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, he wanted to be fired.
Yeah. So that's where I am, and this is where I am very, like, I still cannot, I'm pissed the way Wink handled this, right? There was not effort there. And when, Brian Daboll tries to address it to figure it out, like, there needs to be some conversations, and they had just decided, no, this is not happening. And if you listen to my interview on Jordan Renan's podcast, from the stuff Jordan was saying, which comes from the Wink point of view, it basically confirms that, where it's like, well, he didn't want to make it work. He didn't want to be there. Well, it's like, okay, well, you are there and you are under contract. Make effort to make it work.
But also, you have to understand, I can understand this from Wink Martindale's side of, I'm a grown man and I'm a successful defensive coordinator. I'm not just going to fucking back down to you. Like, there needs to be compromise. And Brian Daboll could step up in front of the room and say, does anybody have a problem with me, right? If somebody steps up and say, yeah, this is the problem that I got with you, I think a leader, Brian Daboll is expected to be a leader. I think a leader should stand there and maybe even take the criticism, take the constructive criticism. And from what we're reading and what people are reporting, Brian Daboll does not seem like the person to take constructive criticism, which I don't even know if anybody wants to do it because of how much Daboll's motherfucking everybody.
Yeah, but it also reports that, Daboll went to Wink privately twice. Let's get to the Mike Kafka stuff, because this is the worst part.
It's more damning.
This is, to me, way worse than anything reported on the Wink Martindale situation, right? Like, if the Kafka stuff is not in here, and, oh, by the way, Joe Schoen started listening into the headsets from the Commanders game to the Saints game to, like, figure it out. The Kafka stuff is way more damning. So yeah, he's MFing him to run the ball, and then when the run doesn't work, he MFs him to which run play that he used. He took away play calling multiple times and then gave it back. Took over offensive meeting room from week 7 to 10, then gave it back. Was taking away his play calling mid games, which goes back to your video about the Cardinals game. He did it in the second Cowboys game. You can't do that, right?
No.
If you take away an offensive coordinator's play calling duty, you need to take it away. And keep it that way. Not taking it away for half. Like, that makes it impossible for Mike Kafka to have any confidence in what he's doing. Especially for, a young OC in Mike Kafka, who's not going to, necessarily like stand up to you that way, right? Has a lot less, vested years in the NFL as a coach and, only 1 year as a play caller. Like, you can't do that to Kafka, right? If you want to move on from him, move on from him. But you can't play this game where it's like he's got to second guess everything that he does.
No, I think that's how you treat children, is that you take something away and then you give it back to them, and then you take something away and then you give it back to them. Again, you're working with grown men. And that's what really blows my mind about this. And I've insinuated that, if somebody left a reply on Twitter today, Justin has this obsession with Brian Daboll being an asshole. Yeah. At this point, I do want to know if Brian Daboll is genuinely an asshole to work with, because that is not a person that I would want to work with. It's not. That's how you treat a child. You take things away, and then you give it back to them. And it was, I think you're muted there, Bobby. Daboll also took over Kafka's offensive meetings, not just play calling duties, per Pat Leonard. Kafka's offensive meetings in Week 7 ahead of the home game against Washington, as the Daily News first reported. And he didn't give complete control back to Kafka until Week 11, after the offense had averaged 11.75 points during that 1-3 stretch.
Yeah, again, if you want to take away play calling, take it away and give it to Shea Tierney like he did in the second half of the Cowboys game, or do it yourself. But to keep taking it away and giving it back, I mean, how does Kafka operate in that, right? And Kafka may not want to be back, but I think he's someone that's willing to make it work. There needs to be real deal conversations, like you said, of self-evaluation. Like, I'm going to stop. Like, hey, my bad. Like, there has to be some evaluation. We've talked about for the last couple of weeks, but we didn't know that. We kept on hearing that Kafka may not want to be back without any real details about it. Well, now we have some real details, and to me, they're way worse than anything Wink Martindale had to deal with. Wink Martindale basically had to deal with being cussed out a lot. Mike Kafka had to deal with his job being severely interfered with.
And I think it's extremely impulsive too. And that's a word that, Leonard kind of threw around in this article too, but I can't help but agree. These decisions don't seem calculated. Like, it doesn't seem well thought out of, all right, well, here's the plan. I am going to go with Shea Tierney here. I am going to have more input in the offense here. But then, it's just this 4-week stretch of them averaging like 11 points per game. And then, all right, I'm just going to give it right back to Mike Kafka. Like, these decisions, they seem impulsive. And for a staff, and this is what we thought, man, this is why it's so frustrating. For a staff that we thought that everything is thought out. Everything. From what these players eat, to training, to what's in the building, the technology that's in the building, the analytics, the numbers, the every person has a job and a role. For all these things that we were giving them credit for, it just sucks that it's the guy that's supposed to kind of be running it it can be impulsive and makes these impulsive decisions, and it's not smart and thought out.
Yeah, changing a play call is a huge decision. Like you said, that should be, again, if you want to do that, do it, right? Sit down on Monday morning, talk with Tierney, what you expect out of him, blah, 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 and make the decision. But like you said, to just like, okay, you know what, halftime, I'm taking this shit back. Tierney's taking it, doing all that. Like, again, and then giving it back. Like, that's like, like you said, it's impulsive is the word. Now, again, there's a lot of stuff in there where, Pat Leonard, like, concludes that Xavier McKinney played better because Wink got on him. Like, that's... I don't give a crap about that. Like, opinions about the game. It, like, brought up the 4th down in the Eagles playoff game, Gano versus the Jets, Tyrod versus the Bills. Like, yeah, even if you disagreed with Wink on those decisions or disagree with Daboll on those decisions, yeah, there's going to be some bad decisions that happen from Brian Daboll, just like there's bad decisions by every coach in coaching decisions. But the main thing from this is the Kafka relationship, which again is not set in stone that he's brought back. There has to be a hard look in the mirror from Brian Daboll on how he treats his coaches, and especially the guys who he didn't have ties to previously. You have to know you can't change who you are totally as a coach and a person, but you have to know who you're dealing with and deal with them accordingly, or else you're going to be out of a job next year.
And what did we fall in love with too last year? We fell in love with this before they even won a game last year. I think we fell in love with the collaboration side of it, right? Where it's like, oh man, from Daboll to Kafka, and this even goes up to Joe Schoen. And you saw the signings that they made in season last year, like Isaiah Hodgins, and it just seemed to fit. Everything just seemed to fit perfectly like a glove. And man, look at this process and look at the collaboration that's happening in the building, from front office to coaching, and then even going to the defensive side of the ball too. Everything just seemed to work, and it's like, well, that's awesome. That's what we love. And now Leonard is calling out a source that's calling that collaboration a broken process of, specifically even talking about analytics and coaching decision making of going for it on fourth down. Do you kick a field goal here? Do you go for it? Et cetera, et cetera. One of the guys that they have on that analytics staff, which is Cade Knox, Ty, how do you say his last name?
Ty Seam.
Seam's been here for a while now. There's a couple others. There's some people that are saying, well, what do we have those meetings for if Daboll's just going to be impulsive on game days and I'm just going to do it my way and do what I want? Why do you have those meetings of, there's a third down here. What are we going to do on fourth down? If you have this down a distance, if you're at this point in the field, if the score is this, they talk about preparing for these situations all the time, but if you're just going to make these impulsive decisions, then why are you having these meetings and, why are you preaching about collaboration when it's not actually happening? This is one article. It's one piece. Doesn't look good for Daboll. It's nothing is the full story. The truth is always somewhere in the middle, but not great right now.
Yeah, but we've gotten stories from both sides' point of view, and it's like, again, I'm the opinion stuff, like they averaged this points per game, and the weeks that Daboll was taking in the other. Okay, well, they played the Jets in that stretch when their quarterbacks went down, had to go like I'm not.
And if he
really
did take over
all that.
If he did take over week 7, by the way, the first half of that Washington game with Tyrod Taylor, I think they had like 8 plays of 20-plus yards. Or no, I'm sorry, that was the whole game. They had 8 plays of 20-plus yards. That was the most that they've had since 2019.
Yeah, and then you have the Raiders game where Daniel Jones is just missing guys and gets hurt, and then the Dallas Cowboys, who they're frauds, but when they're playing us, they're really fucking good. So there's a bunch of opinion stuff in this that I'm not reading all this and be like, oh, the fucking fourth down, you're right, but I am looking at the facts of the taking away the play calling from Kafka, the details of the MFing to Wink, and being like, this stuff has to be addressed and has to be self-evaluated and has to be fixed by Brian Daboll, or he's just not going to last as a head coach. Like, unless you win a Super Bowl and you build up that type of like, hey, this is my way, either get in line and do it or get out. But again, that hasn't happened yet.
Bobby, I made like a joke of a video on social media where I'm like, I really feel like this is a mock conversation between Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. Ring, 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 ring. Hey, Brian, it's Joe. Hey, Joe, how are you doing? Yeah, apparently there's a lot of your coaches and, some people that you work with that think you're a raging fucking lunatic and that think you're an asshole. You mind calming it down a little bit? Yeah, I'll try and do that. Thanks for the feedback, man. Take it easy, boss. All right, bye, Brian. Like, why do I feel like it's that? It's almost just as simple as Brian Daboll just calming down. Is it that simple?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's why it's like, it's not like, oh, his offensive philosophy sucks or his fourth down philosophy sucks or
just that he's a psychopath.
It's just like you said, it's just chill out with the way you deal with people. Chill out, especially on game day. Chill out, and don't just take people's responsibilities away because you're angry in the moment.
Yeah, like that's the solution. I mean, we've talked. I don't know how long we've been recording now. We talked. However, kind of analyzing this and giving thoughts, it's almost as simple as just, dude, you're a good coach. Calm down. And all this stuff that you preach about collaboration and self-reflection, don't do it alone. Like, do it together. And I can't, for the life of me, I can't understand the dichotomy between the way that he treats the players and the way that he treats his coaches, which, I mean, you can argue it's like, these are your coaches. Like, these are supposed to be your ride or die guys. And your players are working for you. Your coaches work for you too. But I would argue the collaboration should be much stronger with the coaches than your players that you are coaching.
I would disagree a bit because Parcells did this shit, right? So there's going to be like that, like, oh,
Parcells motherfucked everybody.
Yeah. Here's the difference of why you got a lot of players. And if one has an issue, and especially if it's a star player, it will bleed out into the locker room, right? Especially when you're losing. Where I actually your coaches you should be able to get onto, right? Like, now again, don't be taking their play calling away. Don't be messing up with the play calls that Wink's trying to get in, right? But you it's on the opposite side where it's like, hey, even if I'm cussing you out, like, we are in this together. Where a player, that stuff should leak. So, like, that's where I don't like Wink in this. Is like Wink acted like a diva wide receiver in this, basically. Yep. You know, and like being pissed off that Daboll limited his blitzing in training camp and shit. Like to me, I agree with Daboll on that stuff with Wink. It's the Kafka stuff that's more damning. And like you said, just stop yelling. All right, we've beaten this to death. Let's talk about Jackpot. How about that? You guys like Jackpot? Because I love Jackpot. And what is Jackpot? What would you do if you won $208 million? What is the first thing you would buy? Would it be 1 million Patreon subscriptions? Would be for me. Would you share it with anyone? Would you tell the people? Well, that's the current Powerball jackpot. Today's sponsor of Jackpot.com lets you play the lottery right from your phone. You can play Mega Millions, Powerball, New York Lotto, and Mo. No need to get to go and stand in line at the convenience store. All you have to do is download the Jackpot.com/lottery app. Which, by the way, those people like hold up the line. So don't be a line holder upper and just go to Jackpot.com. Jackpot.com is now live in New York, Texas, Ohio, and Massachusetts. What do all those states have in common, Justin? They all have Jackpot.com. I just used the Jackpot.com lottery app, and it was super easy, which was cool. I didn't win the big one, but I did win, get a few bucks back. Download the Jackpot.com/lottery app, choose a game, pick your favorite numbers, or let Jackpot.com choose for you. I believe in picking your own numbers and sticking with those numbers. Screw Doug Analytics and anything else that he will say. You will get a scanned copy of the physical ticket uploaded directly to your account. If you win, you get notified, and 100% of your winnings will be transferred to your account. That's awesome, too. It's like you don't have to check your numbers the next day. Plus, we have the hookup for a free ticket. All you have to do is use code GIANTS when you make a deposit. That means you have a chance to win $208 million for free if you use code GIANTS in the Jackpot.com lottery app. So click the link below to download or go to Jackpot.com and make sure you use code GIANTS at checkout. You'll be glad you did.
I'll be glad you did. Ethan tweeted this out earlier. How about 2024-2025? Brian Daboll has a Tom Coughlin transformation.
But seriously though, like I know we all like, Coughlin lost 3 coordinators, like, and it's like kind of cliche. But seriously, like Coughlin did it, and Coughlin was more accomplished in the NFL. I don't want to compare everything to the early New York Giants, but it is comparable. Like, look at yourself and see that there is a fucking issue and deal with it. Like, to me, do you come away from this and like, damn you, Brian Daboll, I don't believe in you as a head coach. This is not going to change. Like, I think
come away from this being like, just calm down.
Yeah, chill out, bro. Just chill out.
Like, you're a good coach. You got good people working with you, bro. Like, calm down. You did it last year, and you did it with a lot worse.
And obviously, Shane was listening in on the headset, so hopefully, there is some of that's happened.
Other GMs do that, so I don't take a ton of stock into it.
No, but I'm saying like hopefully there was conversations about that, right? And the last reported taking away of Kafka's duties was week 10, right? We don't know if he took it away anytime after that. And the offense started to gel a little bit, especially when Tyrod Taylor came back. He had those Tommy DeVito games.
Yeah. And that's when Shane stopped listening, I think, the last couple
So,
weeks.
again, hopefully, like, Dabes could have already kind of dealt with his issues.
Hopefully.
You know, because the Wink stuff, basically, once it was off the rails, it was never coming back because of how both sides dealt with it. Doug Analytics is in the chat. And he said, if I chose any numbers over and over, they'd be 4 numbers. And 3 of the 4 are my birthday. And then there's a 19 in there. I don't know what the 19 signifies. Oh, you know what? It's 1992. Okay. So it's my birthday. I hope you win, Doug Analytics, and I prove you wrong. And you can have $208 million on jackpot, but I will have the satisfaction of being right. What was I saying?
You were going on a good point, and then I was going to have a good rebuttal, and now I completely forgot everything.
Damn you, Doug Analytics. I genuinely hate him.
I mean, we were talking about Joe Shane, and the offense started to gel a little bit towards the latter part of the season.
Like hopefully these issues were somewhat dealt with, but at the same time, for it to be coming out now means there's still some pissed offness about it.
Oh, and also, remember how I was like, I really wish that the media had an opportunity to ask Brian Daboll about all this, but he simply said, I expect both of them to be back, so then nobody was able to ask anything. It's going to be a long 2 months, because I think March is the combine. It's going to be a long 2 months until... think of your questions now, beat reporters, because I would love to hear this, and do not forget this. And I guarantee you, it's not going to be.
Yeah,
forgotten.
they should all like if they were smart, they would get like we are going to only ask about this.
Yes, I don't fucking care about Daniel Jones. Don't ask a single Daniel Jones question.
For real, stop it. Ask like they should join forces, and only ask about this. I'm like, well, we're going to continue answering it until we get some information.
How's Daniel Jones doing? You think he's going to be ready by training camp? 5 months away.
Yeah, but that's what we're going to get to.
Great job.
Are we ready for awards, though? Like,
We're ready for awards.
Let's get the vibes back up.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some awards. Are you ready for awards?
I'm ready for awards. I feel like you're pulling up your document.
It's pulled up, my friend. So we do this every year at the end of the season, no matter how bad or good the season went. So we do, how many awards do? We do offensive most outstanding, defensive most outstanding, most underrated, most improved, most underwhelming, and then rookie of the year. So Justin, we're going to start with offensive most outstanding player, and we put this up to the listeners too. So, and this represents who win it. Like me and Justin have our own ballots, but the listeners decide who truly wins it. So Andrew Thomas has won the last 2 most outstanding players on offense before the year before Wayne Gallman won it, since we've been doing it. This year was the most tight that it was, and I actually thought some second place was going to win this. Andrew Thomas got 49 votes. He was in third. Darius Slayton, while I was counting these, held the lead for the most part, had 63 votes. And Saquon Barkley had 68. So Saquon Barkley, for the listeners, won offensive most outstanding player. And I struggled on this, right? Because Saquon didn't have some outstanding season, right? Like as far as his careers, this was his 4th best season. And his 5th and 6th worst seasons were pitiful. One was a torn ACL, and then the other was 2021. And his numbers aren't bad. But here's the thing. Andrew Thomas missed a lot of games. And then he got injured again and wasn't as dominant in the run game. He wasn't as good results-wise as a pass protector. And as much as Slayton, I love him, to me, Saquon's more outstanding at what he does than what Slayton does, right? And Saquon only missed 3 games. And you look at the context, Saquon had 1.3 more yards per carry than his backup running backs. And you say, oh, well, that's every year. No, in 2022, the difference was only 0.1 yards. I watched the games, man, and he didn't really make bad decisions, right? This isn't old Saquon conversations. Oh, he looks to bounce. He doesn't do that anymore. Thomas missed 7 games. He tied for the team lead in receiving touchdowns. 40% of all offensive touchdowns. All his receiving touchdowns did come in wins, so they were very meaningful, even though he had a bad receiving season. So I thought this year Saquon Barkley was my most outstanding player on offense, Justin.
I gave it to Slayton. Approximate value, which is it's basically Pro Football Reference's WAR, if you're a baseball fan. Saquon Barkley and Darius Slayton had the same AV from this year. Take with that, whatever you may. I have Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton is the only wide receiver in the NFL during the last 2 years to average at least 15 yards per reception, have at least 40 receptions, and have a catch rate of at least 60%. Slayton had a career high in yards after catch per reception per Pro Football Reference, and a career high QB rating when targeted of 101.8. He's there, and he's always there. Whether there's a sliver of excitement or not in this offense or in this Giants team, whether this team is a disaster or whether it's fun, he's there. And I think he became much more reliable this year. He's not a wide receiver one, but he became much more reliable this year. And I think when you have a quarterback that can throw the deep ball, like Tyrod Taylor, I think that's when you really saw him kind of go off and do the things that he can do well.
There was times where he was open deep and he got missed by DJ when DJ was in.
He had a good year.
Yeah, Darius Slayton had his career best season, for catches and yards, and catch rate was not as good as last year, but still really good. He almost won this. Like I said, they were separated by 5 votes for between him and Saquon had the kind of a late push when I was counting the votes. So congrats to Saquon taking down back-to-back champ Andrew Thomas. If Andrew Thomas played 4 more games, I probably would. If they played the same amount of games, I probably would have went Andrew Thomas. I do think Andrew Thomas is more outstanding at what he does than Saquon. But again, Thomas just missed so much time.
Missed like 2 months. And what's really outstanding about what Thomas did. Back. Here's the argument for Andrew Thomas. I almost thought about switching it while you were talking about Andrew Thomas. Think of how impressive what he did was when he got back from the hamstring, and then also when he, the MCL stuff. Think of how impressive that is to be still that dominant and be one of the league's best tackles, not what he was last year, but still one of the league's best tackles while having so many different things going against you.
Oh, he's amazing. He is great. There's nobody on this Giants team I'm more thrilled to have on my roster than Andrew Thomas, and even more so than my defensive most outstanding player. But to me, it's tough to give it to a guy who missed 7 games and wasn't his same old self when he came back, right? This isn't a who has a higher Madden rating. This is a year. This is what happened to a year review. What happened this year award. So Andrew Thomas, I thought we were going to get, I was at a point to where I was like, I want Andrew Thomas to stop winning this because there's some offensive player who just takes over the Giants like a quarterback or something. And that is not what happened in 2023. I gave it to a back who had less than 4 yards per carry, unfortunately. All right, defensive most outstanding. The last 3 years were James Bradbury, Xavier McKinney, and Dexter Lawrence. I'm kind of surprised by how it was voted on. Deontay Banks and Kayvon Thibodeau each got 1 vote. The vote getters were Dexter Lawrence and Bobby Okereke. Bobby Okereke beat Dexter Lawrence by 13 votes. Justin, do you agree with them this year?
I do, man. Bobby Okereke was 5th in the NFL in run stops among interior linebackers. He was 20th in run stop rate. He was 8th in PFF coverage grade, which, hey, I know how we feel about coverage grades and stuff like that, but I wanted something to show that Okereke was very good in coverage this year. 7th lowest in average depth of target. He's tied for 4th in pass breakups and tied for 9th in pressures among interior linebackers as well. 2.5 sacks, 11 tackle for loss, 6 QB hits, 149 tackles, 92 of them solo. Played all 17 games, 2 interceptions, had 4 forced fumbles, and some of those pass deflections even resulted in turnovers as well. But I think the most impressive thing, if we want to talk about outstanding, Bobby, right? 100% of the snaps this year. And what are you asking your Mike linebacker to be? An every down player, captain of the defense. Bobby Okereke was that.
So I don't wish this, but I wish this was like another year because I would love to give this to Bobby Okereke, right? I can make it such a great army. Like he had 2 less sacks than Dexter Lawrence, 2 interceptions, created 2 others for Jason Pinnock and Micah McFadden, plus 4 forced fumbles, had 149, 10 tackles for loss. I think he helped Micah McFadden immensely. But here's where I went Dex. Dex was 2nd for defensive tackles and pass rush run rate, 4th in sacks, hits, and pressures combined, and that was playing limited snaps towards the end of the year. 3rd in run stop rate for defensive tackles. He makes life so much, to me, he makes Bobby Okereke better, right? I don't think Okereke makes Dex better. I think if there was a lesser nose tackle, I don't know if Okereke has the same season that he does. I mean, he's legitimately might be the best nose tackle ever.
Wow.
Like, who's been a better just nose tackle who's been able to rush the pass rusher and be such a great run stopper too, right? Like, he's top 3 in defensive tackles in the NFL right now with Aaron Donald and Chris Jones. You can argue between him and Quinnen Williams, but I think both are amazing. It's just he's done things that have never happened at the nose tackle position as a pass rusher, while also being amazing in the run. I think Dex was outstanding. So I had to give it to Dex back to back.
I'm looking up best nose tackles in NFL history, and this is an opinion piece. There's a lot of players I don't know. Curly Culp, Bill Willis.
Curly Culp, he was really good.
Ted Washington of the San Francisco 49ers, Henry Thomas. And then the first one that I know is ranked here, number 7, Pat Williams. Growing up, there were the 2 Williams guys.
Pat Williams was great. Andre Patterson, I think, coached him.
And then Vince Wilfork, Jerry Ball, Charlie Johnson of the Eagles, and then Haloti Ngata are like the top 11 in this opinion piece.
What Dex is doing right now is much better than anything Vince Wilfork ever done. Now, you have to do it for a while, right, to be named in there. But he's having the best nose tackle seasons of all time.
Yeah. Bobby, before Dex got hurt and before he was kind of exclusively like this third down, they were kind of rotating him in and out. I think the Eagles game, I think he played a lot. But before that, you were looking at Dexter Lawrence stats, not just saying he's number 1 amongst interior defensive linemen in like win rate and some hits, maybe pressures. You were comparing him to edge rushers too, where he was like, you would put interior defensive linemen and edge rushers in the same category. And Dexter Lawrence's win rate is there. And it's like, that's insane. That it's kind of, football is more or less designed for, edge rusher versus tackle 1v1 matchup for those guys to win. And Dexter Lawrence's double team rate is one of the highest in the NFL. So it's not like Dex is benefiting from, these one-on-one matchups and then winning. He's getting double teamed and triple teamed, and he's fucking winning at the same rate as like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt are.
Yeah, he's
crazy.
He's unreal. All right, it's time for most underrated. This award, this one always gets a lot of votes, right? Because 22 players got votes in this. Last year, Julian Love won it. The year before, Adoree Jackson won it, and Nick Gates won it in 2020. This year, I'm just going to go from bottom to top of guys who got 10 or more votes. Nick and McLeod got 10. Daniel Bellinger got 11. McKinney and McFadden both got 16. Wandale got 30. Jason Pinnock got 39. And then the winner was Darius Slayton at 51. Here's the thing, is why I always disagree with the most underrated, is to win this award, you kind of can't be super underrated. Now, I think Jackson got it correctly that year. Is I feel like Slayton is starting to be rated correctly this year after last year being my vote for most underrated. Like, last year, severely underrated. People wanted to move on, calling me, people saying, like, I hate to use this one example, but this person, like, I can't listen to Bobby if he says Slayton's wide receiver 1 over Isaiah Hodgins. Like, people were fine with cutting him before that season. So, I actually think Slayton's starting to be properly rated. Justin, there was someone who I really wanted to give this to, but I didn't. I'm giving to Tyrod Taylor. And I'm going to say, there were people like Tyrod was hated for his preseason performances. Like, he played better than all the quarterbacks, played better than Daniel Jones, who just got $40 million, who threw the most deep passes, had the highest deep passing rate since 2011 Eli, while being efficient, not turning the ball over at all either. And I mean, I had people mad at me, Justin, for saying that he should start and is far better than Tommy DeVito. I'm giving
people
Tyrod
were harassing us.
Because we're like, Tyrod Taylor is clearly better than Tommy DeVito. The gap is big. I don't care. Like, Tommy DeVito has to get a ton better. So I'm going Tyrod Taylor as most underrated.
That's a good one. Maybe the Giants do have the number 1 pick if it's not for Tyrod Taylor.
It was actually DeVito's wins who got him out of that. But yeah, I see. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, light went off.
Turn the light back on. Turn it off. The lights went out on the Giants season and in the office.
Get those lights off. Turn them off. No. That's a good underrated award. My most underrated, I was very surprised to see that he actually did finish second in most underrated. I am going to go with Jason Pinnock. And dude, I'm really interested to see what Jason Pinnock looks like in a non-Wink Martindale scheme. But this year, forced negative plays, 1,000 plays in 16 games, 95% of the snaps in games he was active. And maybe the reason why that's 95% is because I think he did start the Rams game, but then he left early. So you want to talk about, Iron Men. It's a shame that, maybe he couldn't join Xavier McKinney and Bobby Okereke in that, because he was out there. He was reliable. I think he did his job well. And when he was asked to kind of go in the box and blitz and, be a force, he did it. And I think he had some missed tackles this year and some plays where it's like, damn, but Jason Pinnock is not a Pro Bowler. He's not an all-pro player. But for what I think he is a good tackler, and for what he's asked to do, Jason Pinnock is my most underrated player.
Yeah. Most underrated is tough because it could be like, I feel like your vote is great from like a league-wide view, but I always kind of put this under the guise of like, so you can kind of make it your own thing. But congratulations to Darius Slayton winning most underrated this year. Most improved. I feel like everyone's going to agree with this one. 14 guys got votes. Leonard Williams won in 2020. Andrew Thomas won in 2021. Daniel Jones won in 2022. Micah McFadden won this. He got 127 votes. Wan'Dale Robinson got 38, which I think he had a good case, even though I go Micah McFadden. Kayvon got 13. Pinnock got 12. I mean, McFadden had over 100 tackles on a team where Bobby Okereke had 149. McKinney had, more than 100. The 12 tackles for loss was the most since Leonard Williams since 2020. It's the most for an inside linebacker since Kiwanuka in 2011, but he played a third of the snaps on the edge. And before that, it was Michael Barrow. Like, he made improvement. He still needs to improve, right? He's got to become a better tackler. He does come off the field on third down, but we talked about how we thought he'd look a lot better next to Bobby Okereke, and he really thrived. And you saw some of the things that he did really well at Indiana start to translate into the NFL. Obviously, there is some athletic limitations that hurt him in the open field and in coverage, but man, he did his job pretty damn well this year, and he was my most improved as well. I agreed with the listeners.
I went with Wan'Dale Robinson. And I think it comes down to, I think we could envision Micah McFadden being a good number 2 linebacker when Jalen Smith got out of here, and if the Giants made linebacker 1 a priority in last year's free agency, in which they did. I think we could envision a role where Micah McFadden was serviceable. Now, did we envision it being that good? No. I did not envision at all Wan'Dale Robinson leading the team in receptions this year. That was not on my bingo card. That was 100% not. And a lot of it not even to do with Wan'Dale's projection as a player, but it was just, dude, you're coming off he's a twitchy, fast, quick dude coming off an ACL injury. And we know that it usually takes, a full year to recover from that. So I am really excited for Wan'Dale Robinson's 2024. But his 2023 was good. Led the team in receptions. Now, I was pretty surprised to see, if you look at his advanced numbers, his average depth of target was less. It was a whole yard less than what it was in 2023. 6.2 in 22, 5.3 in 2023. Yards after catch per reception, 5.5 in 2022, 4.8 in 2023. I'm expecting that number to go up, hopefully when quarterback improves, better quarterback play, and also Wan'Dale Robinson will be quicker, faster himself in 2024 as well. But in my brain... Yeah.
The ACL portion of this is like... He didn't get to practice football, right? And you think about like when you're coming out of college, you're not really practicing football. You're practicing for the combine and workouts and stuff. And there was like real route running. Like he was not a good route runner at Kentucky.
No, that's the biggest difference.
And he it showed up like the first time we saw him, Justin, like the first half of the 49ers game, like, oh my God, like these routes are clean. Like this is a different player that we have here. Obviously, yes. Does he have limitations? Right. But my worry, well, obviously the limitations with the size and arm length, obviously are still there. My worry is like not with not just those limitations, but like I feel like there's a lot that needs to be grown in his game, and he really did grow in some of those areas, and hopefully he can get better. I think with a more big arm QB, he can become more of an explosive player too, where not necessarily, he's not going to go just stack a corner and beat him deep, but finding the holes and zones deep down the field on the sideline. So there was that.
So that's why I was surprised to see that his average depth to target was a whole yard less, because in my brain, I remember some plays of Wan'Dale Robinson down the field this year. I mean, especially think back to the Green Bay game. That's most notable. But in my brain, I'm like, I thought he had some big plays, and it wasn't just screens and manufactured stuff at the line of scrimmage. 5 broken tackles as well. He only had 1 broken tackle in 2022. So I'm going with Wan'Dale Robinson. And we talked about in the middle of the year on probably a mailbag that, again, single man coverage against man coverage, that Wan'Dale Robinson created the most separation out of any wide receiver in the NFL. So that's plus. Yes, 100%. I did not envision us talking about Wan'Dale Robinson in this way as a good, crafty route runner like he was in 2023. Not on the bingo card.
Absolutely. All right. Most underwhelming. This award always sucks to do. 15 players got votes. The last 3 years were Evan Ingram, Kenny Galladay, and then Evan Neal last year. Unfortunately, for the third time in 4 years, it's someone named Evan. Evan Neal wins this award. Daniel Jones was second, 15 points back. Darren Waller finished third. Azeez was fourth. Adoree was fifth. Paris Campbell was sixth. And then, in a season like this, man, unfortunately, you can make arguments for so many people, right? Like, I can make an argument for Daniel Jones, Paris Campbell, JMS, Adoree, Waller, kind of, even though he got hurt, which was like what we knew, right? So that's not surprising. You can even make an argument for Isaiah Hodgins, but I think he was just odd man out and not necessarily underwhelming.
Right.
But I'm going to go Azeez Ojulari. Right? Like, Daniel Jones' season was a disaster, no doubt, but this isn't like a how many games did you miss award, right? Like that. This isn't what it's not a injury award for me. And Neal, I didn't have huge expectations for this year. I thought last year was more deserving of this award than this year, right? He's obviously underwhelming, but the growth of Evan Neal was all based on hope and no substance, besides, the pre-NFL tape. But Azeez was 92nd of 95 edge rushers in pass rush run rate. 75th of 95 in pressure percentage. Like, he looked bad from camp till the end of the season. Like, Evan Neal was handling Azeez Ojulari in camp for the most part. They took him off the field for rundowns. Like, he regressed severely, right? Whereas, like, I actually don't think Jones is as bad as this year happened. There's a lot of circumstances, and then Jones just shit the bed. To me, but I could have, if you told me what happened to Daniel Jones happened, I'd be like, okay. If you told me with Azeez Ojulari, I'd be saying these stats on him, I would have not believed it. And here we are.
Yeah, it's a good one, but I am going to go with Daniel Jones because you said this isn't an injury award. I mean, I'm not even giving him most underwhelming because he was injured. I'm giving him most underwhelming because Daniel Jones was really bad. Out of quarterbacks with a minimum of 100 plays this year, an EPA plus CPOE composite. EPA is expected points added. CPOE is completion percentage over expected. EPA is basically a value stat, and CPOE is an accuracy stat. Daniel Jones was 32nd out of 49 quarterbacks in EPA and CPOE composite. Here are the quarterbacks that were better than him, like 7 rankings up. Justin Fields, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Will Levis, Gardner Minshew, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, and then it was Anthony Richardson, Taylor Heineke, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Josh Dobbs that were right under Daniel Jones. Dude, if you were to tell me that we just paid this guy $40 million, I mean, even just use your eyes. I mean, let's forget the numbers for a second. That was the worst stretch that we've seen Daniel Jones play football ever.
Yeah, ever.
And it includes his rookie year where he was turning over the ball. At least he had some explosive some explosives. That stretch that Daniel Jones started the year with, man, it was the worst stretch of football that we have ever seen Daniel Jones play. And it's coming off the heels of giving him a contract of $40 million per year. So 100%, he is my most underwhelming player this year.
Yeah, I went back and forth between him and Jones. This usually I kind of have him like, this is my answer. I will tell you you're wrong if you pick it. This year I was actually wishy-washy on basically all besides most improved.
Yeah. Bobby, before we talk about the final award, we have to talk about one more thing. So 2 more things. You're confident in the office. I'm in the office right now, and I may pop one of these. At the dinner table and even on the dance floor, but can you keep it going when you get back to the bedroom? Hey-oh, with Hims, you can get access to medications to ensure your erectile dysfunctions gets treated. So I'll be on stream tonight, JM Football. May pop some Hims. Come have a good time with me. Let's keep the confidence going.
Danny King loves this stuff.
Oh, Danny King loves this stuff, and you can keep the confidence going all day and all night. Actually, you're listening to this after the JM Football playoff stream. All right, so tune in next week, and I'll take some more Hims. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing access to affordable and discreet sexual health treatments, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims has hundreds and thousands of trusted subscribers, so if ED is getting you down, it's time to change that. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/giants. That's HIMS.com/giants for your personalized ED treatment options. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies on product and subscription plan. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
Be glad you did. Did I mention that A'Shawn Robinson almost won it for most underrated? He was first for 2 guys with 200 run snaps and run stop rate, and he had more than Dexter Lawrence this year.
What kind of contract do you think he's going to get?
With this, I don't think the saying gets it done.
No,
and he didn't come here for cheap either.
Like, I want to bring him back, but also I want to be responsible about it.
Yeah, but I think without Leonard, like I don't know what you do. I think it's a position you kind of have to address in the draft, maybe even earlier than you want to.
I agree. I've been saying that for a long time.
Maybe not have to address it. I'm not going to make that statement on January 16th that the Giants have to draft a defensive tackle with one of their 7 picks. The Giants have to draft a long snapper. Rookie of the year, the final one. The last 3 years, it's been Andrew Thomas, Azeez Ojulari, and Kayvon Thibodeau. Congrats, Kadarius Toney, because you are still the only first top pick that hasn't won it. Because Deonte Banks won it. He got 202 votes. Tommy DeVito and Jalen Hyatt both got 3. John Michael Smith's got 1, and Jordan Riley got 1. To me, it's Banks, right? Like, Jalen Hyatt did some really good stuff, but just no volume. And he needs to get better at a lot of stuff, right? JMS had a bad rookie season. Eric Gray didn't play. Trey Hawkins, no. Javarius Owens and Jordan Riley. I mean, Deonte Banks at least looked like he belonged in the NFL. I thought when he was at cornerback too, he played pretty good. He had good force and completion rate when he was there. So I think I still think there's huge growth that needs to be happened to become into a cornerback 1. But I'm giving this award to Deonte Banks. I agree with the listeners strongly.
And this is the first clean sweep. I am also giving it to Deonte Banks.
Who do you think has been like the best rookie of the year since we've been doing this? Thomas has won it. Azeez, Kayvon, and now Banks.
It's got to be either Azeez or Kayvon, right? I mean, I really enjoyed Thomas's growth, but the first half was rough.
Yeah, I would probably say Azeez.
Kayvon gave you moments, and here's what you want, right? Not just numbers. We're not just looking for stats and numbers with Rookie of the Year, right? We're looking for what can you put on tape that can transfer over to a good career. And I think Kayvon's rookie season was more impressive in that regard.
But that would make Thomas number 1 then.
But still, Thomas had a... you're right.
It sucks. We haven't had any great rookie seasons, unfortunately.
No.
Slayton would have won it in 2019, obviously. Actually, who would have won it between Slayton and Jones in 2019? I think Daniel Jones. I would have voted for Daniel Jones, honestly.
I think I would have too, because in 2019 I was big launch Nate Solder into the sun. He was responsible for half of Jones' turnovers.
Saquon is the last just outstanding rookie season for a New York Giant,
right,
in a long time.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So can we get one of those guys in this class? Can we just have a guy who, after their rookie season, we're like, hey, this guy's great, not because of projection, but he's just great right now. Can we please, for the love of God, Joe Shane, can we have a rookie season where we can overreact to it and not the next season being like, oh, we overreacted so much? No, I just want a great rookie who stays a great player. All right, that's an episode. We'll see you whenever we see you. I mean, it's coming up to Giants hiring a defensive coordinator soon, so hopefully that comes soon. Until then, let's go Big Blue.